The murder of Susann Sills is a harrowing tale that captivated the nation, revealing the dark underbelly of a seemingly perfect marriage. This video delves into the intricate details of the case, from the early life of Susann and Eric Scott Sills to the investigation, trial, and ultimate sentencing of Eric for the murder of his wife. Susann Stephanie Sills, born in 1971, met Dr. Eric Scott Sills in Atlanta, Georgia, where he was working at a reproductive clinic specializing in vitro fertilization (IVF). Susann, who was married at the time, was one of Scott's patients. Their relationship blossomed, leading Susann to leave her husband and marry Scott. Eric Scott Sills was a highly educated and successful fertility specialist, holding both a medical degree and a PhD in molecular biology. Together, they had twins, Mary Catherine and Eric, conceived through IVF. The family lived a nomadic lifestyle, moving from North Carolina to New York, then to Dublin, Ireland, before finally settling in San Clemente, California. In 2015, Scott and Susann co-founded the Center for Advanced Genetics in Carlsbad, California. Scott served as the medical director, while Susann managed the office and acted as the receptionist. Their clinic primarily offered IVF services, attracting clients from countries where such treatments were not permitted. Despite their professional success and seemingly idyllic family life, the Sills marriage was fraught with challenges. Scott had 2 children from a previous marriage and was required to pay alimony to his ex-wife. This financial obligation, combined with the costs of their lavish lifestyle, put a strain on their finances. On November 13, 2016, the facade of the Sills' perfect life came crashing down. In the early hours of that Sunday morning, Susann Sills, aged 45, was found dead at the bottom of the staircase in their San Clemente home. At approximately 6 a.m., Dr. Eric Scott Sills placed a frantic call to 911. In the recording, he can be heard telling the dispatcher, "We've got a patient here who's fallen off the stairs, and I don't have a pulse. I think she tripped because it was dark." When first responders arrived at the scene, they found Susann's body positioned with her right leg resting on the last stair. This unusual positioning immediately raised suspicions among the authorities. The investigation revealed that the couple had a heated argument on the night of Susann's death. Their son reported hearing his parents arguing in the early hours of the morning. This argument likely escalated into a violent confrontation that ended with Susann's death. The crime scene presented several inconsistencies with Scott's account of an accidental fall. Bloodstains were found on curtains, walls, and a nightstand in the bedroom where Susann had been sleeping. Blood was also found on both Susann's and Scott's shirts. Additionally, a clump of Susann's hair was found in the room, indicating a violent struggle. The investigation into Susann's death was meticulous and time-consuming. Led by Detective Dave Holloway of the Orange County Sheriff's Homicide Unit, the team carefully pieced together the events of that night. Initially, the case was treated as a suspicious death rather than a homicide. It took a full year for the coroner to officially rule Susann's death as a homicide by strangulation. This delay was due to the complexity of her injuries and the need for extensive forensic testing. Forensic evidence played a crucial role in the case. DNA testing revealed that the blood found in the bedroom belonged to both Susann and Scott. Additionally, Susann's blood was found on a shirt Scott wore after her death, which he had claimed was stained with chocolate milk. A search of Susann's phone provided crucial clues. Text messages hinted at problems in the marriage. In text sent less than 3 months before her death, Susann wrote, "I'm trapped. You are killing me. I just want out. and we just aren't right for each other. These messages painted a picture of a troubled relationship and provided a possible motive for the murder. Scott's initial explanation for his wife's death was that she had accidentally fallen down the stairs. He claimed that Susann had been suffering from migraines all weekend and had been taking medication. Scott told investigators that he believed the medication might have caused Susann to lose her balance and fall. To support his story, Scott pointed out that Susann had been sleeping in their daughter's bedroom, which was quieter and more comfortable for her migraines. He stated that he had gone to bed in the main bedroom and was unaware of any issues until he discovered her body in the morning. As the investigation progressed, several pieces of evidence emerged that contradicted Scott's version of events. Autopsy findings. The autopsy revealed that Susann's cause of death was ligature strangulation, not injuries consistent with a fall. She had a ligature mark across her neck and hemorrhaging in the blood vessels of her eyes, both indicative of strangulation. Blood evidence. Investigators found blood stains on curtains, walls, and a knitstand in the bedroom where Susann had been sleeping. Blood was also found on both Susann's and Scott's shirts. Scott's injuries. Scott had a cut on his forehead and a bruise on his arm, which he initially claimed were from working on his car. However, his son contradicted this story. Witness statement. The couple's son reported hearing his parents arguing in the early hours of the morning on the day of Susann's death. Text messages. Forensic analysis of Susann's phone revealed text messages indicating marital discord. In one message, Susann wrote, "I will never be free, ever. You are killing me, don't you see? ... I just want out." The topless photo. Investigators discovered a printout in Scott's office of an online exchange discussing a topless photo Susann had posted after losing a bet on Donald Trump's nomination for president. This suggested a potential motive for the crime. The trial of Dr. Eric Scott Sills began in 2020, nearly 4 years after Susann's death. The prosecution, led by Senior Deputy District Attorney Jennifer Walker, presented a case that painted Scott as a calculating killer who strangled his wife and then staged her death to look like an accident. The defense, represented by attorney Jack Early, maintained Scott's innocence. They proposed an alternative theory that Susann had indeed fallen down the stairs and that the families to large dogs may have tugged on her scarf while she was unconscious, causing the marks on her neck. The trial lasted several weeks, during which time the jury heard testimony from forensic experts, investigators, and family members. The prosecution emphasized the physical evidence and the inconsistencies in Scott's story, while the defense tried to cast doubt on the investigation's thoroughness and the medical examiner's conclusions. After 3 weeks of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. They found Dr. Eric Scott Sills guilty of second-degree murder, rejecting the prosecution's push for a first-degree murder conviction. On March 15, 2024, nearly 8 years after Susann's death, Scott was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. During the sentencing hearing, Susann's family members gave emotional impact statements describing the pain and loss they had endured. Throughout the investigation and trial, Scott maintained his innocence. He did not testify during the trial, but his attorney consistently argued that Susann's death was a tragic accident. Even after his conviction, Scott has not publicly admitted to any wrongdoing. His silence during the sentencing hearing was noted by observers, with some interpreting it as a lack of remorse. The murder of Susann Sills serves as a stark reminder that domestic violence can occur in any household, regardless of socioeconomic status or outward appearances. What began as a seemingly ideal marriage between two successful professionals ended in a tragedy that devastated a family and shocked a community. The case also highlights the importance of thorough forensic investigation and the persistence of law enforcement in pursuing justice. Despite initial appearances of an accidental death, the diligent work of detectives and forensic experts uncover the truth behind Susann's untimely demise. As this case comes to a close, it leaves behind many unanswered questions. What truly motivated Scott to take such drastic action? How did a respected doctor and family man become a convicted murderer? While we may never know the full truth, the conviction and sentencing of Eric Scott Sills have brought a measure of closure to Susann's family and ensured that her killer will face the consequences of his actions. The tragic story of Susann Sills serves as a somber reminder of the hidden dangers that can lurk behind closed doors and the importance of recognizing and addressing signs of domestic discord before they escalate to violence. It is a call for increased awareness and support for those who may be silently suffering in abusive relationships, even in the most seemingly perfect of circumstances.